Hello, everyone, and welcome to this HUED talk. My name is Mahmoud Abdurrahman, and I'm the managing partner of HUED, and I'll be your host for this talk. I would like to welcome everyone to that new version of HUEDTalks, which is going to feature a number of international guest speakers. And we wanted to start with a topic that will be very powerful and relevant for everyone, which is about how can you make your boss fall in love with the service design. We all know that service design is about collaboration, is about implementation, is about making change. And I would like to welcome to this talk Mark Fونتين. And Mark Fونتين is the host at Service Design Show, where he has interviewed more than 100 pioneers and experts on service design. He's also a co-founder of Service Design Jobs, and he has a full course on selling service design. So he is a global authority on the topic that we're discussing today. But I always say one of the favorite things that I love about Mark, and maybe many of you would know, his definition of service design that was later used by our friends at Accenture Fjord with the example of the two coffee shops. Welcome, Mark, to the talk today.
Hey, man. Hey, Mahmoud. Hey, everyone. Nice to be here on this Wednesday evening for me.
Mark, let's start with since stories are always very powerful in communicating, ideas and thoughts. Give me a story about that topic of today.
Yeah, sure. I've got many stories. So again, welcome everybody. It's great to be here. And the story that I want to share is actually one that I also talk about in a short email course on how to explain service design. And I just took one story from that. If you're interested in that email course, I'm sure probably somebody can share a link. But I remember, and I'll try to talk slowly. I remember a project where I remember sitting in a room with the CEO and the CFO of a company who was in the construction business. And we were doing almost a final pitch for the executive board and showing a presentation, of course, of how the project would advance, why service design would be a good approach for this. And it was quite exciting and interesting because having the CFO at the table, you knew that questions were going to come that you weren't prepared for. And that happened. So halfway through the presentation, the CFO was sitting laid back and listening to it, white shirt on, of course, like your classical CFO. And then he asked the classical CFO question, like, now tell me what is going to be the ROI on this project? And I sort of prepared for that question, and I had a slide ready from the Danish Design Council that showed like the design value index of companies and the stock market. And then he was just sitting there laid back, and I was sort of trying to convince him of that. Hey, look at this, other companies are doing this and they are growing. And he was just sitting there laid back. And at the end, he said, I wasn't really that interested in the actual answer. I was interested in how you would respond in general. So at that moment, after that, I was thinking like, I need to learn how these business people think, how they operate, what's important to them, and understand where these questions are coming from so that I can basically help them better. So that's one of the examples that I, again, also share in more detail in the email course.
Such a great story, Mark. And we have done a lot of efforts in preparing for this talk today, a lot of work in the interactive format that will be rolling out in a few minutes. And I would like to give people more insight on why this is very important. What is at stake if you don't treat that advocacy, or if you're not able to build that level of buy-in within organizations, especially to our in-house.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's at stake? I would also invite the people in the chat to share what they think is at stake. But in if you peel off all the layers, eventually it comes down to, if you are not able to sell, in between quotes, your ideas and your vision for the future to somebody, you're not going to be able to help them to create a better future. So selling and getting people excited about something is all about helping them to get to a better position where they are today. And we all are already selling. Even if you're the least salesy person you could be, you're already trying to get people to believe in the things that you do, whether it's your wife, whether it's your kids, whether it's your boss. So we are all naturally already doing this. And I think the thing we can learn is to do it more consciously and be more effective with it, and not to try to manipulate people, but to honestly try to help them so that they are better off in the end and that we are better off in the end. So what's at stake? It's us. It's us being able to do more of the better work and creating a better world. That's, if you peel all the layers off, I think it comes down to that for me.
Great. So I would just ask everyone to get ready to jump in. There will be an initial rollout now of the format, and then you will have much more of that to do later on in the breakout rooms as well. Rihanna, if you can share your screen, and let's get on to the first scene. So we have prepared here a number of comics that sort of, display or depict like typical situations, and scenes that we all face within the organizations. What we're going to do now is, in each of these, there is a service designer and someone else, right? So there is the service designer and their boss, or a service designer and another stakeholder, or, some sort of like CEO or something like that. We will go through 3 of these comics now with Mark, and Mark is going to role play this with one of the audience. Okay, so Mark is going to be the service designer who is trying to convince people to do things, and then also sometimes becoming a bit frustrating or not so encouraging. If you can slightly zoom in, Rihanna, first, for us to see the to see the comic, and then we can start to do the note taking. Okay, so let's go through the comic first. What we're going to do now then is invite a volunteer to role play that scenario with Mark. And while we do this, we have Tarek, who is one of the HUEDers. He will start to live take notes and enrich the whole scene with what's happening in the dynamics of this. So this is a typical situation. You have the service designer or someone who is an enthusiast of service design trying to do things within the organization and stuff like that. And while they are doing this, they are always, told that we have much more essential stuff to take care of or to focus on, right? So it is always the fight between, current operations, current business, and, creating that new business. I would want one of the audience to raise hands, and then they will be allowed to talk and also to start role playing this with Mark. Anyone?
Who wants to be a good boss? Who wants to be a good manager? A tough manager.
A tough one, yeah, right? Troublemaker.
The bad cop.
I see many familiar names here. It would be great to have one of them jump in and take the leads here. Otherwise, we can choose some of our friends as well.
I have the scary role here. The other part is the easy one. So yeah, I will. We have a volunteer.
I think we have Shada. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So now, as they start to do this role play, I want all the audience to be observant, okay? So I want you to actively listen. I mean, start to see what are the dynamics that emerge in this situation, how each of them is positioning them, you know, what are the power dynamics and how they play, you know, and how they are able to influence each other. Okay, Mark?
Yeah. So where is the boss? I need to hear or see the boss.
Hi, so I guess I'm the boss, right?
Hey, yeah. So, yeah, again, just to stress what Mahmoud said, everybody just pay attention, see what happens. This conversation, we don't know where it will go. It might turn out really well. It might turn out to be a disaster, but we're inviting you to make notes and reflect and learn. So, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, good to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How about you?
Good. I'm super busy, like we all are. And I heard that you wanted to talk about this project that I'm working on, right?
Yeah, I do.
Well, tell me what was on your mind regarding the thing.
The thing. Okay, so I'm supposed to come up with a project in my head, right? Sorry, I joined late, so maybe I missed some parts there.
No problem. Well, so I'm going to, in this case, try
Maybe
to
you
work
give an
on
update, Mark, or something. So you're
Yeah,
excited
yeah.
about the project that you're working on.
Yeah, exactly. So this project, the service design project, this project to develop this new service proposition that we started 3 months ago, it's really progressing nicely. So I wanted to give you a quick update and see how you could maybe get more involved and help us to implement some of the ideas, right?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah. So we did all the research, what you expect. I'm not going to bother you with all the details. And now we're getting to the ideation stage. You can see some examples of the ideas that we have here. We've involved already many stakeholders. We've involved a lot of users, and now we're getting to the stage where we would like to also involve you and see how we can actually start rolling this out in the organization. So
Okay, so have you collected the requirements?
yeah, we started with that, of course, and that started in the framing stage. If you want, we can go over that once more, but yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Give me just the, how can I say, the top of it. Just give me the quick summary about it.
Yeah, the quick summary is that, yeah, based on the target market that we wanted to address, the young folks, we see a lot of opportunities to bring this new service to market within, we think, 6 months, and yeah, prototype it, see what happens. But now we actually have to get some resources from the organization to move forward with the implementation.
All right, so now you're in the resources allocation part, right?
Yeah, we have done the research, we've done the ideation, and now it's time to get it out into the real world. And the question is like, can we get some support from you? Can we get some involvement from you?
Well, I don't know. You seem to have done your homework, so I don't see why I will not support you. But I guess for you to have resources allocated for you, you need to have a clear vision on what you need those resources for.
Sure, no problem. We have a project plan ready, so so that's done. We can go over that later on the day. And now I'm going to invite you, challenge me on this and say we're too busy, or push back on the time and the resources allocation thing.
Okay, I want to challenge you more, actually. I really want to get a clear idea. So let's see what we can do with this. So let's say if I give you 1 resource or 2 resources, how fast would you pace and use those resources in your project?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. You know, we started this project together, and I'm also curious, what do you hope to see within I don't know, the next 6 weeks or 6 months, and then we can see which resources we can get from the organization. So
No,
what is your ambition?
I need results that be focused or shown before 6 weeks. 6 weeks is too long.
Sure, no problem. So what's the time frame that you're looking for?
So if you have a 6 months project and you need resources and support on my behalf, I need results to be at least, I don't know, let's say an MVU, minimum valuable product, in the next 3 weeks.
Okay. And what would you be willing to invest in resources for us to actually deliver that MVP in 3 weeks? What do you feel is a realistic investment?
Well, if you're developing kind of a software framework, so I would say at the beginning, I'll just give you one IT person. Probably would give you some funding, but not a lot, just to support you with the MVU. After you deliver the 3 weeks thing, and by the way, if you deliver in 2, then you would get more resources. If you deliver in 3, let me see what you get. But if you can give me in 2, maybe I'd upscale your resources.
Sure. So just to summarize, and this is already great, like you're offering one IT person to develop this MVP. Is it correct that I understood that we're trying to find a market opportunity which is worth at least 5 million in the first 2 years?
Wow, that's good.
That was part of the scope, right?
I'm not sure, but apparently you can, if you, let me see, where's your scope plan? Where's your baseline?
The thing we discussed at the start of the project was that we're going to try to find an opportunity which is somewhere between 5 and 10 million in the first 2 years.
But you will try, but you're not definite that you'll get it, right?
Who is definite that they will get it, right? Where can you get guarantees these days? So we can do our best to try and give our best shot.
All right.
And we have some experience, so.
Okay, so let me see. If I give you the resources and you give me an MVP in 3 weeks, and as I said, I promised, if you give it in 2 weeks, that means that you're serious about it. So probably after your MVP is delivered, I might give you more. So let's say, and the sizing chance of opportunity will be bigger because if the fact that you deliver early on your MVP and then we can test it. Probably when we test it, we will have more visibility on whether it's going to be profitable as you promised or not. How about that?
Sounds good. Yeah, and let's pause here because we can. Thanks for this. You can continue for the next 10 minutes. Again, thanks for being the good boss.
So yeah, so for all the attendees, I mean, if you can mention in the chat, what is it that you observed while this discussion is happening? You know, what do you think were the dynamics that were kicking in, and how also was Mark dealing with this, and probably how you may also deal with it differently? It's not so much about like the perfect answer, but it's more about being able to navigate those situations and read what is happening. Let's take some feedback in the chat.
Yeah, while people are typing in the chat, Mahmoud, what do you feel is was the struggle here? What was the thing that I needed to overcome?
No, I think you had quite collaborative boss.
Yeah, this wasn't the hardest boss.
I think, you know, it is pretty much about what gorgeous reality you can always draw for people, but also how can you minimize the fears, right? Because everyone is somehow feeling that, okay, I'm not sure if this is going to work. And this whole situation is actually about the status quo and the current reality versus, you know, uncertainty in the future.
Yeah, when you get into challenges and discussions about resources and people not having time, you have to dig into priorities and go back to the initial assignment. Like, why did we start to do this project in the first place? Why did we go out to seek this, to explore this opportunity? And if at some point people decide that it's not worth it to pursue it anymore, or they don't feel that this is valuable anymore, then it might be able that you need to cancel the project. But a lack of resources isn't a lack of resources, it's a lack of value perception of the thing that you're doing.
Okay, so let's move on to the second. Let me see. Okay, so the comments that we have here, the boss is not convinced, but wants to give it a try. Okay, so that's quite collaborative one, cooperative boss. Numbers and ROI always attract managers. I think we have another scene upcoming about that. The boss is very nice. Okay, I feel like everyone is going to want Shata to be their boss. Boss was only focused on shrinking the timeline to the max, where the designer kind of ended up losing a week's time.
Yeah, and the thing I can say about this is the easiest way to fix these situations is to make sure that at the start of a project, you have a really clear idea, again, about the value that you are trying to create. Like I just made up the 5 million, but usually designers don't have that conversation at the start. And that's what bites them throughout the project, because nobody knows what you're really in for. And then it becomes really hard to fight for resources. So this is something that you should fix at the start of your project. Like what is the potential value that we're trying to gain, or what is the cost that we're trying to eliminate? And you need to, you make your life much easier when you have that clear upfront.
Great. So let's move on to the second scene. So we'll be covering 3 scenes here, and then the rest will go into the breakout rooms. That's a typical, let's say, board meeting or management meeting, and you know, something is being pushed here, proposed, and they're saying, but this doesn't look like pushing the needle for our KPIs. You know, so measurements, whenever you are going to work on anything, is always going to be a question. How can you really measure success and progress? Matching that with the level of maturity of innovation and design within the organization is very key to those discussions. And here we're asking for another volunteer. Anyone?
Who raises?
Come on.
Anyone. I will go.
We have Tahani. I think Tahani Ali.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mark.
Hey.
Tahani, welcome to the talk. Nice to see you here.
Likewise. I'm going to try and be mean.
Good.
Yeah, you should. You should. I want you to give him a hard time, okay?
Okay.
So let me start. Thanks, Tahani, for inviting me to this management meeting. There were some things you'd like to discuss, right?
Yeah, please just make it quick. We have a lot of items to cover.
Yeah, I got it. So I can be super quick. Tell me, what was the question on your mind where you invited me to this meeting? So I assume there was something about measurements.
How can you ensure value out of this project?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great question. How are we measuring value right now?
You tell me.
Well, I guess you're the CEO, and I'm really curious, how are we measuring value? Are we doing some, I don't know, how are we capturing value at this moment?
Well, you're proposing a project, and before we move forward with your proposal, we need to know how we're gonna measure value.
Exactly. Yes, I totally agree. Otherwise, we won't be able to see if we made actually any progress. So again, do we have systems in place right now to measure the current status quo?
Yes, we do.
And how do we do that?
As an employee in this company, I expect you to know. So
Aha. Yes.
We brought you here to answer our questions and not the way around.
Great.
So,
I totally get it. But I have no information on how we actually measure. I wasn't aware, and I'm curious if you can update me on that, then I can help you to answer this question about KPIs.
Okay, so I propose you get in touch with, what's his name? Ahmed. He's the dashboard guy. He's keeping track of all what we're doing, all the measurement, all the necessary KPIs, and ensuring that we are on track with everything. So
Okay.
that's an action item for you after this meeting.
No problem, because I'd love to see and make actual tangible progress. So yeah, let's meet next week.
And please be prepared.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Perfect. This one was perfect. I don't know how you felt about it, but it feels so uncomfortable.
Yes, I felt that too.
Very good. Because this is reality, right? This is how it goes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
how did you feel about Tahani, how did you feel about this conversation?
Well, because I know it's a role play, it's funny, but like you said, it's still very uncomfortable, even though I'm the bad guy here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very uncomfortable, but it's much easier because I just have to be arrogant and you're the guy who has to come up with all the questions, right?
Yeah.
So it's an easier side of the equation, I would say.
And what would you say was my strategy?
You kept moving around, avoiding the answer because clearly you didn't do your homework. Yeah, so suggesting a reschedule was a good strategy, I would say, and if you were really prepared.
So it's interesting, and apparently this is would have been a learning point for me. Like if I gave the impression that I'm avoiding the question, then that already creates negative emotions in a situation like this. What my goal was is to get the answers from you rather than me trying to come up with stuff. And this was apparently then a misalignment on what my homework was. But usually in these conversations, I try to, if clients start about KPIs and about measurement, usually they have to come, how do you measure success right now? Usually it's not the thing that they ask from a designer. So usually they have to give the answer, and often they don't. The answer is that they don't measure, and then it's really hard to, well, you can confront them with the fact, well, if we're not measuring it right now, how can we know? How can you expect from us to measure it? But
right, I think with the first question, I felt challenged as the CEO, and I did not like it.
Yeah.
So that's when the attitude went up.
Yeah. So that would be a really good thing. Like I said, these conversations are not about having the perfect conversation. It's even better now that we've created this tension and this conflict. What are some of the other comments in the chat, Mahmoud?
So we have here aggressive boss, very strong boss. Mark is very experienced. Agree, it is the reality. Yeah, I highly agree. I mean, I have seen lots of these situations, and I have personally also been involved in projects of designing offices for, excellencies and stuff. And I know someone like you, Mark, wouldn't get the meeting booked to begin with in this situation. He flipped the situation. Don't walk into the meeting room if you have a moody boss. Yeah, what if he's moody all the time? I think he wasn't avoiding. He wanted you to point me to the right direction. If he does this in a real case, he will lose. Bosses don't like such confrontations. I think of these scenarios had some guiding words, it would make it easier for role playing. Well, he's a Dutch. What do you expect? Yeah.
Yeah, so the trap here, and the trap here is trying to convince and sell. So if I would start trying to convince that this is pushing our KPIs forward, and unless I have hard proof that it is, which we often don't as designers, then I would lose for sure. So it's really, you can almost only win in these situations if the client, the boss, convinces themselves that this is actually moving the needle. And the best way you can do that is by asking questions, trying to figure out, how do you see progress right now? How do you do it in other projects?
Yeah. I think from my practice, Mark, also definitely being aware of the different types of measurements, lead and lag measurements are very essential. since the more mature the organization becomes, the more you'll be looking towards more outcome-based. Earlier in the process, it would be more about process-based outcomes. I think one nice thing I was trying to sense if you are leading towards is more if you are actually trying to get them to set the priority of where you want to measure, because this will be another win in the situation. If they tell you what priorities they have, and then you focus on that in the measurements. So that also becomes an initial, let's say 50% buy-in kind of thing, because it makes your job easier.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead. Let's move on to number 3. We have much more to discuss.
So this is the last one that we'll be doing in the main session. And for that, we'll need another volunteer. Someone, needs to cool down, energize up, and get in the cage. Okay. So it looks like a service designer or some sort of service design advocate is pitching something, and then there's a comment that we already have the business process management office for that. Yes. And it looks like the business process management guy is on the table already and saying, yes, tell him. So there will always be in the organization, and maybe in the other scenes, you see other scenarios as well, on who is already doing that, and there, when there is someone is thought to be already doing this, there are so many dynamics in the situation, because you don't want to alienate them, you want to engage them, and you want to do many things in the, and still building in much more buy-in and stuff. So who is the next volunteer? Someone who likes to discuss that BPM service design thing, or any.
Can be UX, can be design research, can be marketing, can be sales, whatever.
Yeah, agile, lean, CX.
Yeah, we already have X for that.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, how are you, Mark?
Good. Hi, Hashem. Nice to see you.
How are you, everybody? So now I'm going to be the aggressive boss. I was in your situation many times ago, so I will ask you many questions according to I'm the CEO that managing a lot of projects at the same time. So I want to know first which project that you want to hire more members in your team.
So just to be clear, we started the scene right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So which project did we want to hire more service designers? We set a scope at the beginning of the year to develop 3 new services in our business to business department, and we're moving forward with those, and we already see that we need more resources to actually get them off the ground.
Okay, so what if we didn't hire these new members?
Well, the question is, how fast do you want to move with these services? How much progress do you want to see at the end of the year?
Yes, because now we have, now in this era of Corona, we have a very limited numbers of hiring new people. We have also another managers that they want to hire more people for
totally
development.
Get that.
So we have very limited members. We have only two to hire. One of them is already reserved. So tell me why I should hire one for your team.
Oh, right. Yeah, and I totally get that we're short on resources. Like in this period, everybody is short on resources. So we need to be creative around that. To achieve the goals that we agreed upon at the beginning of the year, we need hands. We need people who are able to do the research and to do the ideation. And if those resources aren't available due to the circumstances that have changed, which I would totally understand, that would probably mean that we need to look at the scope again and rethink what we can deliver within the new context and boundaries. Would you be willing to do that?
Okay, but I need first to know to compare between hiring a new member for you or for the Angular team. if it will save time for our project or not, because you know that the 3 projects that you are talking about, they should be delivered within 2 months only.
Mm-hmm.
You know about this?
Yeah, and you need to make a decision. Where are you going to allocate your resources? Are you going to do it for us or to the other project, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the year, we sort of agreed upon the target and the goal, and we agreed upon certain resources. And I would love to have the conversation with you again, now that this new situation is here and that the resources have become limited. How can we either achieve the same with less resources, or maybe narrow our scope so that we can still maintain high quality, but with less expenses? But we would need to have a conversation about that.
Okay, but what I need a clear answer for this question. What if we didn't hire for you a new member? This will affect our plan or not? Or it will affect the quality?
Yes. Yeah.
We need it in the same time.
Yes. So let me ask you a question. If you go out to buy a pair of shoes and the shoes eventually appear to be the same price as you expected, but you have half the budget because in the other store you just saw a great jacket, would you still be interested in the shoes, and would you be able to afford them? When the resources get smaller, I think it's realistic to look at what you are also expect from the end result.
Okay, I got it. But again, I wanted to know that we have a very limited number. So tell me, what if I didn't hire you a new member? It will affect the quality or not? This is a very important answer for me.
Yes, yes. And the short answer is yes, it will affect the quality when we don't have the resources that we agreed upon. When we were setting the scope at the beginning of the year, we allocated some resources, and those were...
So I know before that you want 2 members. You want a UX researcher and UX designer. I will give you one only, so you have to choose one between them.
Yes, I totally get it that we have to cut resources. In that case, we would have to reframe the project scope and the outcomes that we can deliver. So if you're willing to do that, then I'd be happy with 1 team member.
So Hisham, you are already, as a boss, convinced that whatever he's doing is different and is unique and is really value adding, right? You are not in any way confused that already business process management office is already doing that, right?
Yes, because this conversation happens many times in this period, according to the limited members of hiring. So many times we hear the same conversation, and that we have only 1 member, and me as a boss, I should decide which team I should hire this new member in development, in QA, in UX, and he should convince me that the UX should have this new member will make a lot of progress more than others. So he should tell me directly that it will affect the quality, it will affect the plan, the sprints can be. We can be advanced in sprints before the development. A lot of things like this, it will make me convinced.
Okay, let's take the comments on that role play, and then we'll move on. What did everyone capture out of this? What do you think was happening?
While everybody's typing, I can give one comment about the comparison. So when you would get a question to explain how it's different or how it compares, the first thing you do is you agree and you show interest in that somebody else is already doing this. As you're not the expert of BPM or marketing, I would try to find the overlap. So please tell me, what do you feel is the same that marketing does? Like, where do you see the overlap? And then once people start to explain where they see the overlap, it becomes much easier to exemplify the differences. So before making assumptions about how it's different, start by looking at what are the similarities from the perspective of the person making the comment. Like if somebody said, yeah, but this is just like UX. Well, sure. Tell me what do you feel is the same as UX? Well, you do research and you do this and this and this. Yeah, we all do that. That's exactly right. And the difference that you see or that you don't see in UX is we also do physical prototypes. For instance, if we have a service in a hotel, whatever, start by acknowledging the similarities, and then from there start articulating the differences. That's how I would approach it. And then let's see what we have in the comments. The boss wanted a clear answer. All bosses want a clear answer.
Yes, and that question, by the way, that part about business process management has been one of, that we hear most of the time, all the time. That
how would you respond, Mahmoud?
Oh, we actually created an entire deck around that, and we tell people, yeah, I mean, we know the differences, and and who leads to what, and what focuses on what, and we have visuals and stuff like that, and then it becomes very clear for people, because when, for example, when you start to discuss usability and the focus on the touch point, business process management is not there, When you start to discuss about ownership of experience, business process management is not there, right? But you don't say that business process management is not relevant, because definitely when you start to discuss things like blueprints, and the process part of things, definitely that's of a great relevance. I see a comment here. It's always good to listen to what the other person has to say and meet them halfway. I guess something is better than nothing is the scenario here.
Yeah, and when people want to renegotiate the terms, again, this relates to the first thing. When your boss wants to renegotiate the terms that you set at the beginning, you should always renegotiate, but then it has an impact on either speed, on either quality or volume. And yeah, that's the conversation, that's the negotiation you should restart at that point.
Okay, I want to onboard everyone on what's going to happen now. So we will start creating breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have 3 participants. And basically, you will be in breakout room 1 or 2 or 3, etc. We'll be sharing now with you the link to the Miro boards that you see now, and you will go to the scene that's corresponding to the number of your breakout room. Okay, so can you show us, Royana, for example, 1 and 2 and 3? Yeah. So for example, people who are in breakout room number 1 will go and see, okay, what is there in that breakout room? What is the scene? And they will start to form themselves as follows. So one of them will be the service designer, and the other one would be the boss or whoever is in the situation, stakeholder or something. And the third person is going to be observing and taking notes on what's happening in the situation. And they can do the same exactly like what Tarek was doing. You can make it more brief. You can start to analyze what's behind or do whatever. We'll take 15 minutes to do this. And we'll come back here. And after that talk, Mark will share with us his 3 essentials to make your boss fall in love with service design. And I say in HUED, we actually have a very successful case in making someone fall in love with service design. We had, who was once a client for us, fall in love very deeply with service design, that he became our CEO today, So that's a great success story when it comes to making people fall in love with service design. So Osama will now create the breakout rooms and will assign people. But let's also first share the link to the Miro board here in the chat, and make sure that you open it before you join the breakout room. So if we can share the link to the Miro board in the chat. It will be 3 roles. So the service designer, and then the other person that could be a stakeholder or a boss or anything, depending on what's in the comic. And a third person is going to be an observer that will capture the notes.
Mr. Mahmoud.
Yeah.
Abdullah Rahman, help us out. What is the next step?
Yeah, let's take a bit of feedback and input from people on what happened within their discussion. So that was really interesting discussion. There was a lot of pressure around timeline, around roles. We will do things from our side and stuff. But then the service designer tried to sort of deconstruct, the dynamics there. Some focus on value of interim assets in the process, and also what may go wrong. And then the stakeholders started to sort of reveal some pressure from higher management, and some pressure, fear also of, reporting to board and things like that. And the service designer started to be sort of like, we are in the same boat, we can help you with that. We can show examples of things that happened earlier. So that also have the proof of, yes, even if we take more time to do it, but we know if we didn't do it, then it may go wrong. And if we do it right, we have the proof for that. So that was really also great. Yeah, there was discussion of unrealistic timeline, and then, the process and its implications. So yeah, that was great. We can move on quickly then to scene 2. Okay, here it says, I'm sorry, I'm not available. And yeah, so this is apparently a service designer calling a stakeholder for either a research session. Yeah, it looks like a research session here. Say, I'm sorry, I'm not available, and we already know what the user wants, so let's skip that. And it's the problem that some people don't want to engage when it comes to research or when it comes to ideation. So that's always the problem of when you are trying to transform the organization and build that practice within. Would anyone want to? I see some notes here already.
Yeah, so basically I was the boss, the stakeholder, and the service designer tried to convince me that we need the research to understand the user needs and how it will add value to our service that we are giving to the users, and how we will gain the loyalty of the users. And she convinced me. She's working as a UX researcher in actual life, so
okay,
easy for her. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a great practice then. Users always behave. Okay, cool. Were you in that same team too, Amar, or was another team? Okay.
No, me and Rinat.
Mark, do you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, a quick comment with regards to user research that always comes up. This comes down to how confident, how much risk is your client willing to take, or why would they pay you as a service designer to guess? So we're going to create ideas without research based on assumptions. Why do you want to take that risk? Why won't you invest a small portion of your time and resources to test some of these assumptions and prevent more expensive mistakes later on? So I would play the gambling and guessing card.
Yeah, so it looks like devastated service designer who received the message, an email that says no money, no talents, no access. How can we get these, and do we really need to do that? So it's a problem of buy-in and no resources as well. I think it's similar to something that we tapped on earlier. Since this is new, resistance is at its highest, and then especially the to allocate anything. And I see a note, if anyone wants to brief us about that situation from their team.
What would you say about this, Mahmoud?
Yeah, I think it is always about being able to build the balance between how much of investment needs to happen and how much of return that you can get, and how much can you, the more you are able to get as in buy-in, the more resources you are able to tap on. So it can't be a 0-on-1 kind of thing. And then, the more advocates you have internally, the less of these conversations you go in, and the more supporters you have as well.
Yeah, and it sometimes comes down to lowering the perceived risk.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, so can you break it down? Can you make it smaller? Can you book small victories and then yeah, advance through smaller steps if the perceived risk to do a specific investment is too high?
Yeah, a lot of people feel like, okay, they have to start with a, I don't know, lab or something like that, you know, something that requires so much to build or, you know, but that's not really the start. Move on, number 4. And seems to be like a virtual meeting, and a boss and a service designer on the call, and the designer is presenting an amazing future service vision. And the boss is saying, I'm not sure if we are ready for this. You know, so they see a lot of risk in adopting this, and if they have sort of covered the essentials, so it always looks scary and unlike the reality, you know, and the question about like, are we ever ready to make that step? Do we have any comments from the team who worked on this?
I didn't work on this, but I have a comment if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think it might be beneficial to show the evidence behind why we are presenting this vision, which is grounded in your research and your understanding of the customers and stakeholders' needs, as well as the larger organizational needs. And then you show them, you connect the two and you show them why this vision will address those needs of the customer and stakeholders, and why will it be profitable if you implement it in the future. So if you ground your vision in reality, then this makes it less scary, I feel.
So is it much more about relevance of that future vision to the current state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mark?
I've been in these situations, and I agree that showing the process, how you arrived at this future vision, helps a lot to get buy-in, because at some point your future vision should be a logical result out of the steps that you took to get here. And it's really hard for somebody to skip over those steps. So showing the journey towards this and which decisions and assumptions you make along the way usually helps to have a more interesting conversation than, are we ready for this? It becomes a different conversation when you show the path towards this vision.
Yeah, and I mean, as engaging and motivating ambitious visions they are also scary at the same time, right? So you need to be able to balance both of them. How can you make sure it is motivating enough and it's inspiring enough, but also it's not so scary? And I think building the stepping stones through that, and offering the sort of like, okay, what can we do about this today or tomorrow or something like that, and all the discussions about that phasing element.
I haven't tried it, but it might, as you say, this is scary. Might also be interesting to create a future vision where you just leave things as they are and see which scenario is more scary.
Yeah, definitely. So staying there as well is as scary. I agree.
It should be even scarier. Yeah.
Okay. I will. I mean, the other scenes are there. If there are any comments you want to take on them, let's. We can hear your comments quickly from the audience in the chat or in the. Let me see some comments from the chat. So even if we know the user, the uncertainty nowadays is high and needs and demands keep changing. So research would always be useful. Absolutely. It might be beneficial to explain the cost of using service design versus not using it. Yeah, so triggering that part of what if we don't. And in this situation, we could show the cost of not doing it and the cost of the lost opportunity. Yeah, exactly. That's what you just mentioned, Mark.
Yeah.
Said by Ahmed. So, so Mark, give us the 3 tips, and then we open for any questions from the audience.
Yeah. So based on my experience of doing 14 years of service design, and if I have to distill it just to 3 tips about getting your boss to fall in love with service design, I would say number 1 is practice empathy, which with that I mean listen to the people who you're working for, learn about their challenges, know what keeps them awake at night. So empathy towards not just the people, not just the consumers, but also the people we're working for. That will be one. Second thing that worked really well for us always in the past is show, don't tell. Like, you can talk all day about service design, but as soon as you start presenting things that you actually did, or do experiments, or do the marshmallow challenge, or activities. So show, don't tell is, I think, a much more powerful way to get people excited about it. And the final thing I would say, and maybe that has been the most successful for us if you manage to do it, is get stakeholders to interact with customers. Get them outside, get them talking, well, in this case, get them online, and let them firsthand experience how customers think about the service, how they think about the future. I don't think there's a more powerful instrument than actual customers sharing their stories to actually get people to appreciate the value of service design.
Great. Thank you, Mark, for the tips. And in relationships, they say we fall in love with a person and an idea of a life with them. You know, so for everyone, we feel excited about being with, even if that is service design, not a specific person. It's more about like how it's going to make us feel and look in the future, right? It is about that future identity that we have and future reality that we see. And I think it is all about how can we make this much more tangible to get in touch with, to feel, and also not so risky to, that it hijacks and compromises everything else. Okay, we can take questions if there are any questions from the audience at the moment.
Who don't have questions?
I have a quick question for Mark.
Good.
So you mentioned that instead of talking about service design, we show them service design. So what exactly should we show them?
Yeah, so I have some videos about that, because we can do small experiments with people that show certain values of service design. So I already mentioned the marshmallow challenge. Like, if you want people to appreciate the value of prototyping, take 18 minutes of their time, do the marshmallow challenge, and then you'll never have to explain the value of prototyping again. It's the same with visual. There are exercises about visual, the power of visual communication versus written communication. Some time ago, there was a really cool video about people drawing things on their back. Anyway, visual communication would be another one. Co-creation. Like, there are many experiments that we can do that show the power of co-creation. So the things I would show around service design is the sort of the core values and the individual elements, rather than the whole process at once, or next to the whole process at once.
Okay, if I can say something about this point, is that once I do this and show the results, okay, I bring in users, then I make a video of their faces facing challenges in our design. So after that, I show it to everyone in the project. So the whole mindset of the team changed. Now they always think about the users, think how our user will face or using our service again. So that was very, very good experience. And yeah, it changed a lot of things in our project and our process.
Yeah, I totally agree. Getting the actual people who use your service or will be using your service, then it becomes really easy for us as service designers. We don't have to prove anything or convince anyone. This is like what your users are saying. This is the people who are paying your salary. This is how they respond. And you just become a mirror of the reality of the needs of your customers. That's super powerful.
Thank you, Renat, for that note. Okay, Ahmed, what are your tips and tricks for having a service design research in a totally new domain or industry? So that's a question mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I totally understand the question, but if I make an assumption, doing service design in a new industry, that has been the thing that we've always been doing. Like, we are always in a new industry. The research methods don't change. We're still talking to people. We're still doing field research. We're still doing diary studies. Like, the industry changes, the customer change, but our way of investigating doesn't radically change. Of course, you adapt your tools and methods to be appropriate for the context, which makes sense. But in essence, the whole design research process is no different. At least that's my experience.
Okay. Do we have any questions? I see something here. I've designed this book and I shared with viewers. Okay. Convince not just the boss, but all stakeholders that have been working in silos to join in the creation of new service.
Yeah. That's a classic one also. The challenge there is really a leadership challenge. To get people to work together across silos, you need KPIs that are not silo driven. So as long as people have targets and KPIs that focus on the individual success of individual silos, then it makes sense that people focus on that. So if you want to break that, you need to have some incentives that people want to contribute to the bigger picture.
We have another question from Ahmed. Once the boss fell in love with service design for the first time, how could we make this more sustainable? So that's a scaling up question or longevity.
Yeah. A lot of bosses leave the company because the company doesn't allow them to scale. That's reality these days. It really starts to start building an environment where service design can thrive, and that's one of the hardest thing. Like, you can of course hire 5 more service designers, but if you're still a very traditional corporate culture, these 5 designers will leave within no time. So making service design more sustainable means that you have to think about the work environment you have, the culture that you have, the incentives that you give people. Like, if you see service design as a seed in a company, like a plant seed, you have to think about what are the things I need to give it to become a great plant.
Yeah, and definitely, I think, Mark, making sure that love doesn't just stay there and it really translates into impact quite quickly is much better than just making this love sort of spread within the organization. So if you have to prioritize between, focusing on a small thing and getting value out of it versus, having everyone adopt this, but then no value is seen,
Exactly.
that becomes quite crucial.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are like tempted, by some clients, like, oh, we want to start and we want to be big and we want to do everything, but we say, no, we actually have to take it, we do something small and then scale up from there, even if the willingness is there. Okay, not the designer, but I really love it. And this is second what I have done. Okay, thank you, Faisal, for sharing. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. That was the first global HUED talk. And I would just love to receive your feedback in the comments about this talk, and also about what you liked about it. How would you describe this? And also what you would like us to address in the future. And if there are any other topics you would want to discuss, or speakers also would like to see here on that virtual podium. Thanks, Mark, for joining us today. And my regards to Nora, I think.
Yes.
Is right behind you.
She should be in
here.
bed. She should be in bed. She sneaked in Thanks everyone for doing this experimental prototype with us.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mahmoud.
Thank you. Thank you all.